Welcome everybody to today's video. Today we are talking about the iPhone SE camera. Now I did a video a little while back on the iPhone SE. I did a general overall review on that phone, but I didn't dive very deep into the camera aspects. I talked only very briefly about what this camera is capable of on this phone. So today I wanted to jump into that more. So let's take a look at the iPhone SE camera. So this camera right here is a 12 megapixel camera. It shoots 4K in 30 frames, 60 frames, and 24 frames per second. Shoots slow-mo, takes panoramas. Panoramas are still around. I guess there's a reason they're still around. So this thing shoots 4K. It is pretty good and sharp 4K. Definitely not the 4K you would see coming out of a DSLR camera. To me, it looks like a pretty solid 1080. I don't really know that I would go as far as to say it looks like a 4K camera, but it is 4K. It does look really good. Definitely no complaints. To have 4K video on a $400 phone. The photos this thing takes are pretty impressive. That 12 megapixel camera does actually look pretty good. So this thing takes portraits. It actually takes some pretty good looking portraits. Does a good job of outlining faces. So we're just going to do a little bit of pros and cons here, starting with the photo portion. Pros about the photos that this thing takes. They're sharp, they have good colors, and good skin tones. So cons, my cons list is not very big. For the photo portion, this thing just takes really nice looking pictures, especially for the price range. You can't ask too much out of the camera. Really, it's their budget phone, so you can't ask for everything. Very few complaints here. I do have one very massive complaint, though, that pretty much equates for all of the complaints needed because it is so that bad. This thing's portrait mode only takes portraits of faces. It only takes portraits of faces, nothing else. You can't just walk up to a flower and go and take a portrait, or to your oh so good looking drink and go and take a portrait, or if your plate of food and take a portrait. No, it has to be a face. I barely ever want to take portraits of faces. It's pretty rare that I'm taking portraits of faces. Usually I want portrait mode for, other things I'm taking pictures of that are not humans. So moving on to pros and cons about the video portion. This thing shoots 4K at 24, 30, and 60 frames per second, which is massively impressive. So you got a little bit of a slow motion 4K going on, as well as the 24 frames. The front facing camera here is a 7 megapixel, definitely not as good as the one on the back. So if you are going to be doing vlogging, I just recommend just holding it out like this, screen away from you. That way you get the better quality video. I have done some vlogging with this. I'm guessing some of you could probably distinguish when I was using the iPhone SE, when I was using the camera. So about the video, definitely 4K is a huge pro. It looks really nice. You cannot complain about the video quality on this camera. Very impressive, especially for being a more budget iPhone. Very impressive. It also does 1080 frames per second, and then also it has a slow motion mode, which is 1080 at 120 frames per second, as well as 1080 at 240 frames per second. So it can shoot very slow motion. Another pro about this video feature is generally the skin tones look really good. The colors, typically it does not do anything weird to the colors, which kind of brings me to my next point, which is the cons list. So, surprisingly enough, the skin tones were a pro and a con. Basically, it has really good skin tones for the most part, except for this scenario. So if we just pull up this part here on my video, going about 50 seconds, as I'm turning, the sun is, let's say the sun is like over there. As I'm turning with the phone out, videoing myself, as I come with the sun shining at me, as the phone comes over and there's really hard light on my face, my face just gets, it just completely messes up the skin tones, completely blows them out. Another con with this video is this. What is that? I don't know what's up with this. Sometimes this phone will it just has such a hard time pulling focus. It could be it's just this camera specifically, and that it's not across all iPhone SEs. I'm not sure if it's just something I've been struggling with, or if it's more of a universal iPhone SE issue. I haven't really looked into it. Now, with these two things, I really want to stay positive about this camera because overall, it's a really good camera. They did a really good job. I don't want to spend too much time on the cons. Yes, this camera has its problems, but it's a really good camera overall. These are pictures from my iPhone SE and from my DSLR, just kind of next to each other. Similar photos. You can kind of see the colors, the skin tones, the sharpness. This is on portrait mode. Here are these photos. Yeah, let me know what you think. So if you're thinking about getting this phone for the camera, I don't really think I would recommend getting it for the camera. Now, if you're thinking about getting it for a phone, it comes with a great camera. If you're willing to spend the money, go ahead and get the 11. Then you have the universal portrait mode. So guys, in conclusion, the iPhone SE has a great camera for a $400 phone. It has a few things that you might just have to live with. Yeah, it's not the greatest phone camera ever, but it is a budget iPhone. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful to you. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. So another con. If you're picture oriented,